can ever make. And I got involved when I was in college, and I remember hearing testimonial after testimonial of young women, of old women who had had abortions 15, 20 years ago. One woman was raped. The other was in the military when she had her abortion. The other one was very typical of a town like this, where it was a college girl who either didn't want her parents to find out or just didn't know what else to do. And any one of us would pay $400 or $500 to have our greatest worry taken away, our greatest fear, something that would endanger our future wiped out in an instant. And that's what abortion promises. And like all things that are from the devil, they promise everything, but they end in sin and ultimately death. Abortion is the most common surgery in our nation, which is shocking when you look at, after 36 years of legalized abortion, 37 years, we are still cramming into rooms like this to support organizations like Open Door. But thank God that after 37 years, no matter when it comes up in church and it makes people uncomfortable, and it should, or when it comes up in a political debate, or when it comes up in a presidential nomination, everybody pays attention because we take it personally. This is a heavy topic. You could be doing a million other things tonight. But you're here. And you understand the reality that we cannot force ourselves into the most sacred bond in our humanity, the bond that God Himself chose to send salvation into the world through the womb of a woman, is now, statistically speaking, the most dangerous place in America. The word abortion is the second most controversial word in the English dictionary, according to Webster, behind the racial slur used for African Americans. And yet it's the most common surgery in our land. Why? Because we take it personally, and we should. Because these are our brothers and our sisters that are being aborted, and these are our brothers and our sisters that are walking in to have abortions, and these are our brothers and our sisters that work in the abortion industry. And we take it personally because we're not robots. And despite all of the rhetoric, or despite 37 years of legalized abortion, we still have a major problem with it. And thank God for that, because that means that as a nation, we ultimately have not bought that lie that that small Indian nun pointed out on that day in front of the most powerful people in the world. The number of abortion facilities over the last 15 years has been cut in half. Half of them have closed across the country, and in the meantime, the amount of pregnancy centers across the country have tripled to where now we have 3 times the amount of pregnancy resource centers as abortion facilities, because this is a grassroots battle. And we are winning the grassroots battle, and in Tallahassee, you're really winning it because you are on the front of the front lines where the abortions actually happen, meeting abortion at its comfort zone, where it takes place, just yards from Open Door. Now, often some get frustrated with the media because this issue may get left out or it may get sort of brushed over. But last year I saw a media story that really spoke to the mentality that drives abortion. And it was about a young couple who was open to children. They were newlyweds and they were excited about having children. And so the wife had some fertility problems, but finally she got pregnant. And they were ecstatic because when they went to have an ultrasound, they saw that there was not just one baby in the womb, there were 2 babies in the womb. And they were ecstatic about welcoming home their beautiful twin babies. And so they went into that healthy panic mode that young couples do, that frantic where basically you're listening to your wife for 9 months. But you have to paint different rooms and you have to rearrange everything and you got to get the 2 cribs and I feel like we do this every 15 months at my house. And I was informed that I no longer will have a home office as of June. I don't know if I get a hammock and a laptop or how that's going to work. But this couple was no different. And they prepared 2 nurseries, and they got 2 cribs, and they were ecstatic, as anybody would be in their position. All until they had tests run and found out that one of the babies had Down syndrome. And so they opted for a selective abortion to abort the baby with Down syndrome. And the doctor aborted the wrong baby. And so they went in again to have the baby with Down syndrome aborted a final time. And that young couple that was conditionally open to life then went home and walked into 2 empty rooms and stared at 2 empty cribs that unfortunately represent our all too often empty attitude towards children. C.S. Lewis tells us that all real change starts with one thing, and it's the most essential thing: repentance. All change starts with repentance. And where are we as a nation on our road to repentance for abortion? I think we are further along than political polls would show, because this is a grassroots effort. That's why you're here tonight. Because yes, it has a political element, but ultimately this is a moral issue, because it gives us a sense of urgency that no other issue gives us, because of the women that are scheduled to have abortions today and this Saturday and next Saturday. And so yes, we vote pro-life, but we have to meet those women where they're at on the day of their abortions, because they are not there because of the Democrats, and they are not there because of the Republicans. An open door is there for them on what is the worst day of their life, a day that will surely end the life of their child. If abortion doesn't kill the baby, it's simply ineffective in its end goal. And also a day that will not be the end that they are promised. It will not be the relief that they seek. It will be the beginning of a long road to healing. And the irony that I saw this afternoon after flying in and visiting Open Door is that when a woman has an abortion, she has to drive back past Open Door. And you have to think, yes, all the ultrasounds they've done, and yes, all of the babies that they've saved, but how many women who have felt so lonely walking those steps out of that abortion facility into their car have driven back and seen Open Door and thought, what if? And you represent the first step to mercy to those women after they have the abortion as well, because of that location. John Adams tells us that this democracy was established for a religious people, any other kind, and it is sure to fail, which should create a lot of excitement tonight, because that means that the solution to abortion is a local solution, and in Tallahassee, you are that solution. And Open Door is that solution, because they're right there where the abortions actually happen. We don't have to throw our hands up in the air and be hopeless. We have the privilege of supporting this organization that is right there on the front lines, saving lives every single day, despite what happens in Washington, D.C. Now, I never imagined that I would ever be in Tallahassee speaking about a topic like this. I probably would have made it to Tallahassee eventually, because I went to Texas A&M University, and it's only a matter of time that they would have played Florida State, and that would have forced me to come here and, of course, become an enemy of all of you. But I got involved in college. I was 19 years old, and there was a young, attractive girl that I was hoping to meet and maybe even marry. And I did end up meeting her and did end up marrying her, but the first thing she did was ask me to go and pray in front of a local abortion facility. And it was a Planned Parenthood in College Station, Texas. I didn't know Planned Parenthood did abortions at the time. And I remember, at that stage, she could have asked me to jump off a cliff, and I would have done so. And so we went out, and I remember walking up to the sidewalks feeling very uncomfortable, very awkward, thinking, number one, does this make me now some sort of a lunatic or religious zealot? And number two, I, to my knowledge, had never seen anybody or met anybody that had ever had an abortion. At 18 years of age, I had just gotten to school. It was early August. Classes hadn't even started yet. And I remember seeing woman after woman go in and have an abortion, as they've seen here in Tallahassee, just a few yards from Open Door. And I felt kind of awkward, and I realized later it feels awkward not because I'm there, but because they're there. If you go out and pray in front of a Chick-fil-A because you want to save chickens, you won't feel that awkward. You'll be misled because what they do to those chickens is phenomenal. And now they can make them spicy. But unlike that, when you are in front of an abortion facility praying, everybody knows why. Because it's the elephant in the room of every single community in America. That is the elephant in the room in Tallahassee. It's the elephant in the room in the South Bronx. It's the elephant in the room in San Francisco. Because a modern day Holocaust is going on in the midst of a beautiful day where right around the corner from where we live, where we work, and where we worship. And yet, you're out there messing up that process through peaceful prayer, and certainly it's an advantage here for the 40 Days for Life team because Open Door is just a couple of doors down. So I went there and I didn't want to look at anybody, but of course I looked up and I had locked eyes with this young girl who was leaving the clinic. Her boyfriend was completely cold to the situation, and she looked up at me as if to say in a very real way, you know, look, when I drove in here, I thought that you didn't care, that you didn't love me, and that you're just self-righteous and you're out here because you want to feel good about yourself. And now that I'm leaving, I see that you do care, that you do love me, and that it is too late. And tears began to swell up in her eyes, and she was no longer thinking about an abortion. She was no longer talking to friends about an abortion. She had had an abortion. It was done, and the look across her face was the furthest thing from relief. And she drove off, and I decided to get more involved locally in College Station with the local pro-life organization, and they hired me part-time. My wife and I both worked there part-time, and then when our director left, he went to Washington, D.C., and they named me the executive director, which is a lesson. Be careful what you volunteer for tonight. Later, you will be asked to give financially a monthly gift and a one-time gift, but the volunteer box can wrap you into something that you're not used to. And that's what I did. I ran the local Coalition for Life for 6 years, and I just left that position in April, and over the last 2 years, we bought the house next door to Planned Parenthood, just yards from where they do abortion, just like you have in Tallahassee, and like you see, we saw women come in all the time, sometimes by accident, but most of the time on their way to Planned Parenthood, where we would do pregnancy tests or ultrasounds.